So truth, being, and reality, they all refer to the same essence. I wouldn't want to say any way of looking at it is more fundamental than any other, just because truth is certainly fundamental and so is reality. It's just, I think often people may inquire into what is true, but when it comes to inquiring into your own nature, your own self, your own body, mind, emotions, that one considers oneself in an ego-identified state, that if that doesn't get questioned, I hear this a lot with people that teach mindfulness. They'll be like, okay, look at this, look at that, become aware of this, become aware of that, but who's becoming aware of it? That question doesn't get asked. Usually, I would say usually it's not asked. So in that way, it's fundamental, I think, practically speaking. If you're doing mindfulness, but you assume that you're just the self, which is ego, you'll get some benefit probably, but it won't. It's like learning how to sweep dust out of your house or dirt out of your house, but you leave the door open and there's a storm outside and it keeps getting dirty again. And if it's bad enough, it'll pile up and you'll be overwhelmed, because the ego is the fundamental issue that we're dealing with. And if you're going to do this work, the work of waking up, not the work of becoming a more effective manager or something, I mean, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just, if you want to wake up, you have to question the roots of the ego, which are definitely in self. And you can get there by asking what's true. It's just that if you really do, if you ask what's true, it comes back to you. And if you stop, and I've seen that too, where people are doing, say, the work of Byron Katie, they're asking, is it true, and so on, that as soon as it becomes uncomfortable to the ego, they'll stop. Some people. Inquiring into reality, like, oh, I, as this self, am going to inquire into what's real. If you want to wake up, you have to ideally start with the foundational idea that you're not you, as you think you are. You're the timeless essence of all that is. You're the awareness that is aware of objects, forms that change, and so on. But that includes the body, the mind, and the emotions. It includes the self, the person. That's not you. That's basically an object arising within you. You don't have to start with that exactly, but it doesn't really start until you're willing to go there and assume it. It's interesting. I don't know which is harder, assuming that who you are in your essence is divine, in a sense, or facing the falsehood of who you think you are, because they kind of go together. I mean, they do. The hardest part is like the parts that feel like you. You have to see there might be shame there. There might be very difficult feelings that for you to face those things consciously would be very painful, perhaps, or very uncomfortable. To admit certain things to yourself or to others, just to be honest about who you are and seeing the falsehood that you've gotten wrapped up in. I just think it helps to start with this notion that it's falsehood all the way down. It's an attachment to a form, and that's what ego is. I think some teachings, really good ones, will say that the ultimate truth is who you are in your essence. Maybe you haven't realized it yet, but that's a premise. Again, you start with that. Or you can, and I'm saying that I think that's important. But it'd be really easy for that just to get co-opted by the ego, and you're just like, oh, I'm a special muckety-muck. It's not that you're this person in a body, this mortal person in a body who also happens to be, you can't have both. Yes, who you are in your essence is the truth of all. And You won't realize that until you let go of your little fucking scraps of nothing that you call self. But let it go. Let it go. The tendencies people want to hold on to self, that's ego again. You know, when they say you can't take it with you, when you physically die, you can't take physical things with you. I think we're at a point where we agree with that. This question, to whom does it arise? I like that because there's a part of us, I think, that wants to discuss this philosophically and come to some conclusion, and it doesn't work that way. It's like you want to put together your piece of IKEA furniture and you're discussing how that's going to be done. You lay everything out, but at some point you just have to do it. You follow the instructions. You can't just look at it and read it and be like, great, we're done. No. So to ask, to whom does it arise? To practice that is something you do. And then, of course, there's the philosophical game of, well, who does it? You know? No, do it. Just do it. Find out what that is. Do it until you find out who you are, and then see if you want to ask that question. That little semantic game, you know, well, who this, who that. It's really just something that you do, and it's delightful if you practice it sincerely. There is something about laying oneself down. If you start to intuit into what God is, or the divine, or absolute reality, whatever you want to call that, truth itself, there's a spirit of, you call it surrender, I guess. And it's a certain attitude of laying oneself down, in a sense, in service to the realization of reality itself. The teaching is that there's one truth, one reality, one being, and you're that. And to realize that, well, it's the greatest gift you could offer. It's everything. And whoever you feel yourself to be that feels separate from that, feels like, well, I feel kind of like a separate human. Fine, you start with that. The teaching is that you're going to surrender that and realize this greater reality, but you can't keep that limited sense and wake up. Like, it's going to prevent that. The addict is a state of mind that has to be, in a sense, broken. It has to die. And that's what ego is. It's an attachment. So, I mean, you could keep some of those elements of self and still be attached in that way and start to intuit into the value of the transcendent. It's not even a feeling. Feelings may arise. It's what might be called a direct intuition, radical intuition. It's not thought or sense experience. It's something else. Realization. So that realization, don't the Buddhists call that satori in Zen? A moment of satori is like a realization. It's not the final realization of nirvana and, ego death and all that. But it's a hint or a taste or something, and that matters. And that means you lay yourself down even more, because you're like, oh, you've tasted the wine a little bit, and you're like, okay, that's it. Whoever I assume myself to be is in the way, and I'm going to learn how to let that go.